Okay, so we're going to do a demo of preparing a plate for use with the microfactory. The things you'll need for this process, you'll need some clamps, a couple of bits of sandpaper, something to mark the plate, something to drill the plate with a 1/4-inch drill bit. From the kit, you'll need your drilling base plate, you'll need your plate integration locators, you'll need your 2 knurled pins, and then you'll need your plate tracing template. So these will all be used throughout the process. Of course, you'll need to have a pre-joined plate, either a back or a top. In this case, it's a Indian rosewood back. You'll need to have the plate joined in a way where the center line is offset. So this is a good practice to do just generally, but when you're joining the plates, offset them just slightly. What this does is it creates an offset here, and then at the other end of the plate, it creates an offset here. This establishes our center line, so we can never lose center, but also we use this as a positive stop with the drilling base plate to locate it. You'll also need a work board, and in my case, I have created just a simple spoil board that I can drill through. It's MDF. You don't need to use anything expensive here. Just something like MDF will work just fine. On the bottom side, I have just some blocks to raise it up off of the bench. And this allows me to put a clamp underneath and clamp the plate down. So it doesn't have to be super fancy, just something very simple. And then what I've done previously is I have drilled this workboard with the holes for my drilling base plate. This will be useful later when we want to pin the plate in place to trace it. So the way that I did this originally, just so that you can replicate this if you want, is I used the drilling base plate. I drew a center line on the workboard, and then I used the center line on the drilling base plate to line it up on that center line, clamped it down on both ends, and then drilled my 4 holes. So this allows me to pin the plates in later and do other things that are part of the microfactory workflow. In my case, I have drilled for both the small body and the large body. So the north pins are static, they remain the same. And then I've drilled for both body styles on the south end. For you, if you're just using a single body style, then you would just drill obviously for the body style that you're using. Okay, so to start, I'm going to place the back plate on the workboard, and I'm just going to clamp the back plate onto the workboard by its 4 corners. This will just lock the plate in place so that when we're putting the drilling base plate on and we lock it in place, the plate won't move. So I'll start with that. And again, the workboard doesn't have to be anything special. I'll go around to the other side. Okay. Okay. So now I can bring in my drilling base plate. To locate it. A couple of things about the drilling base plate. So you do have the ability to slide this north and south. So if you're working around defects, you can very clearly see the reference shape, that's the inside line, And then you can see the oversized profile. This is oversized by 1/4 of an inch all the way around. You can see the tabs, where the tabs are going to be on both ends. And so you can use that to your advantage to move the plate north and south to figure out where you want it to land if you were, for example, working around some defects. I'm also going to use some sandpaper. This is just sandpaper that's tri-folded, so it's just a small sheet of sandpaper folded in 3 so that it can't roll over on itself. And I'm going to use that underneath the plate. It's just a little bit of insurance to help us make sure it doesn't move around. So I'm going to approximately get the plate on the center line. Again, we know the center line because of our offset plate down here. And then I'm just going to drop this sandpaper somewhere in that general area. The idea here is that it'll help to keep the plate from moving anywhere when we're doing our drilling operation. Okay. All right, so that looks good. Now I'm going to use the plate locating pins. So these are universal. They can work either way. So depending on which way the tab is facing, you just put you use the corresponding ledge of the tab. So this establishes the center line. So for example, when I put this in, so when I slide this into the drilling base plate and slide it forward, I'm going to exaggerate it here, but it's going to go against that offset plate. And then we're going to do the same on the other end. And it's going to go against that plate. So now, if we were to try to rotate the plate this way, it's locked into place because the plate locating pins are locking it into place. And you can see it here. Okay, so now we know we want to drill here because this is where our tab is. So I'm going to clamp on this side just to keep the clamp out of the way of the drill. So I'll just take the clamp that I had here previously and move that over to right here. And again, we don't need to worry too much about the where the clamp is. It's just tightening down and it's using this as some extra friction. I'll go around to the other side. This is the side we're going to be drilling, so I'm going to move the clamp over and clamp it down right here. I'm going to take these plate locating pins with me because I don't want them to get lost. Okay, now we're ready to drill. So we've got everything locked down. The plate is locked into place. We're going to drill. Just a 1/4 inch twist bit. Another trick is you can put it in reverse and reverse it slowly. That will help it get centered down into the bushing. And then you can put it back to forward and do your drilling. Okay, and it's a spoil board below, so we don't have to worry at all about that. Obviously, it's just an 1/8 of an inch thick plate, so it goes very quickly. But now we've got this guy drilled, and we're going to do the same thing on the other end. I'm going to walk around so I'm not reaching across the plate. But I'm going to do the exact same thing on the other side. Put it into reverse. Let it get settled in. And we're all set. Okay, I'm just going to vacuum up. Okay, so now I can go ahead and remove the clamps. And remove the drilling base plate. Now, something that I like to do is I like to chase these with a 251, so a 1,000th oversized reamer. The reason for that is this will help with the pins to allow them to go in more easily. You can work with it with just the 250. It will go. It's just maybe a little bit more work than you might want. And so I'm going to chase it with a 251 reamer over on the drill press. And you can see it just doesn't take very much off at all, but it does make it a little bit more friendly when you're trying to push the pins through and into the workboard. Okay, so like we saw earlier, I've already drilled, using the drilling base plate, I've drilled the locating pins for into my waste board, and I mentioned that would be useful later. And so the reason that's useful is because we can use it to pin the tracing template into place. So I'll get the tracing template. And so this will allow us to pin the tracing template onto the back plate. And then I'm just going to use, in my case, I have just a white Pica Dry pencil. Anything that will show up on dark wood will work fine. And I'm just going to trace this outline. The idea here, of course, is that I can then do a number of different things. So I can take this traced plate to a bandsaw, cut it out on the bandsaw close to the line, and then I'm done. I can also use the plate routing template that the Microfactory offers. It doesn't come with the default kit, but you can order it separately. And it's basically a 1/4 inch version of this that you can route against with a bearing bit. I still recommend, of course, that you cut it close with a bandsaw first, and then use the routing template to take the last bit off. Or you can use a CNC, which is what I use, and I'll show that as well. I have a fixture plate on my CNC that cuts the plate out to shape. So now we can remove our pins, remove the plate tracing template, and we have our plate that's prepared and ready to cut out.